Zimbabwe first presented an arrears clearance plan to the IMF and the World Bank in Peru's capital in October. The plan proposes clearing the 1.8 billion in arrears by refinancing existing debt. However, as the president of the African Development Bank explained, Zimbabwe has a lot more to do in order to get its economy back on track.
We've been on the Zimbabwe issue for quite some time. I think there are, there's the African Development Bank, there's the World Bank, and there's the IMF, in which we are working very closely together to support the country with what we call the arrears clearing system. Essentially just to be able to get it back into the international financial institutions, to be able to get access to the financing we can provide, requires that we clear the outstanding debt. And I think we're very close to doing that. I am very positive that before the end of the year, we'll be able to sort that out. I'm very, very encouraged. We've had a lot of good discussions by all parties, and I think we're close to resolving that particular issue. But we look at other countries, such as Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria is Africa's, biggest economy. It's going through some rough times because of the significant fall in the price of oil. But I think that we've been quite encouraged with what we've seen most recently in terms of the removal of the quantitative restriction in terms of foreign exchange, but also in terms of the more liberalization, if you wish, of the exchange rate, so that the financial markets can have the predictability that is needed to be able to draw in significant amount of foreign direct investment, which a country needs.
Back to Zimbabwe briefly, though. I mean, the country's got a serious cash flow problem right now. I mean, we've had incidents where, say, from the 1st of July, doctors will not be accepting any payments from medical insurance providers, which portends a really nasty public health issue. But an economy like that, with that level of cash flow problems, how possibly can they get back on track to resolve the, $6 or $8 billion worth of public debt they've got?
Well, I mean, it's not a very straightforward issue. There are issues, political issues. There are also governance issues. There are historical issues. There are policy issues that have to be resolved there, and they are working on it. I think that the real game changer here will be the arrears clearance. Once that is sorted out, and the policy environment improves, to be able to make it easier for private sector to be able to invest, but also to have access to liquidity. Because, if you don't have, you have a lot of medium and small and medium-sized enterprises in Zimbabwe that are dying to have access to Forex, to be able to import machinery, to be able to import equipment and raw materials. And so the African Development Bank, we make actually loans to intermediary financial institutions, including most recently in Zimbabwe, to allow them to be able to have access to that. So if a patient is sick, sometimes they don't get well instantaneously regardless of what he says. So it's going to take, some of it will be immediate, some will be medium term, and some will be long term. But I do expect that Zimbabwe will recover.